Hi, everyone. Harry here, and again here with the peripatetic and redoubtable Adam Klasfeld, who covers the country for the most explosive, in this case, hearings and most interesting ones. Just let me set it up. This is the Kilmar Abrego Garcia case. No one, I mean, no one has been jerked around by the government more than he, and chapter 25 in a really parade of horribles long volume is when they bring him back, but to face criminal charges. And they say it's very serious and he must face charges. When he is able, however, to be released so he could be at liberty, all of a sudden the U.S. seems to be changing its tune dramatically and saying, we don't care anymore about those charges. What we want to do is deport him to a third country, which, by the way, after the Supreme Court's latest activity has already begun to happen. 8 people were sent to South Sudan just in the last 24 hours. So now Abrego is trying very hard to keep from being deported and instead to first do this criminal trial, which could reveal quite a lot about the weaknesses in the U.S. case and how they've really been overreaching to try to basically make life hard for him for the great sin of having been mistakenly deported. And the latest hearing, he's trying both in the court where he had brought habeas corpus originally and in the court where he is due to be tried criminally, to get one of the 2 judges to somehow keep the U.S. from deporting him. And we had a very incendiary hearing. It sounds like, I just know the headlines. Adam, being there, knows the fine print, and it is pretty damn explosive. Adam, thanks as always for being with us, and tell us about Judge Zinnes today.
Judge Zinnes is angry. Judge Zinnes is demanding answers. And the headline for me today is that she has ordered the feds to testify. There's going to be a hearing on Thursday where some government official, we do not know, but one with knowledge of the government's plans for what they're going to do once, if and when, Kilmar Abrego Garcia is released from pretrial criminal detention. What are their plans for him? All the government will say right now is that they are going to their plan is to seek his deportation to a third country. But they won't even settle on that. They're saying that maybe we will do that, or maybe we will try to rescind that order that we violated when we sent him to El Salvador. So the government may try to send him out to El Salvador. They may try to send him to South Sudan. They will not say. This
Well,
is why.
did she try to get them to say at the hearing today? What happened at the hearing today?
It was like pulling teeth, Harry. She tried to get them to answer it. She said at one point, I direct you to answer it as an officer of the court. She said that to Jonathan Gwynn. And he gave an evasive answer. He said that the government hasn't decided yet. That's his representation, that there hasn't been a decision. She's putting that representation to the test on Thursday. Will the government have decided on Thursday? Will they say that we've thought about it and we're going to go for South Sudan? Or we've thought about it and we have been in negotiations with the government of Honduras, and that is where we're going to try to deport him if he is released? Or some other answer. We have decided that really El Salvador is the best place, and we have a really good case to try to rescind it, unlike last time when we simply violated that order.
We can maybe try to give them due process, in other words, but send them back. But typically we've had them. The DOJ has often been there, and no more than in her courtroom, saying, I don't know. This is actually why one, by being truthful about saying, yeah, we messed up. One DOJ lawyer was fired after 15 years of service, but there's been the sense that the department has been kept in the dark from the real movers within the administration, Cherche Stephen Miller or something. Was the sense here from DOJ the kind of hapless, nobody tells me anything, or was it an actual assertion? It just hasn't been decided. We don't know. It is not known within the government.
It's the ultimate see no evil, hear no evil. She asked them multiple times, did you ask your clients, meaning the government agencies, the answer to the questions that she was seeking? Again
Yeah.
and again, the attorney said no. There was one new attorney.
The attorney said, no, we haven't asked them.
We haven't asked them. They
Mhm.
conceded that they never asked the question. And she didn't let it go at that. She said, well, certainly you knew this hearing was coming. Certainly you knew that question was relevant. One of the attorneys caught entirely unaware of that was Bridget O'Hickey. She's a new attorney for the government, and she was seemed very unprepared for the judge's questions. But she wasn't alone among the attorneys at the government's table, the defense table, as it were, to be reminded over and over again that they're officers of the court. That they
Oh, okay.
when
That
they are
that that
asked,
normally is the big hammer from a judge, right? Yeah.
it is, and that hammer struck frequently. I lost count of how many times Judge Zinis had to remind the government that they are officers of the court. It was a routine occurrence during this hearing.
And just for people listening, that's another way of saying you personally, Mr. Classfeld, may be looking at contempt. You're an officer, and if you don't act like one, there are sanctions, professional sanctions for you. All right. Now, what about how long was the hearing, and what did what did Abrego's lawyers argue?
It was about roughly 3 hours with the
Whoa!
recesses. Yes, it started at 11 and it ended nearly at 2 o'clock.
Oh, I
So
see.
this was a long hearing. There was a recess, so it wasn't entirely, uh, you know, 3 straight hours, but they had a lot to go through. The judge denied 2 motions to dismiss. I say 2 because the government originally filed a motion to dismiss under the theory that, Your Honor, we have no control over what Mr. Bukele might do in El Salvador. They forgot to withdraw that motion to dismiss, even though
Oh, they
they
filed this way back when they were
way
giving
back
all the excuses. I see. Okay.
and they did not withdraw that motion to dismiss. So she had to rule against it. She had to rule against another motion to dismiss under the grounds of mootness, that the case, now that Mr. Abrego has been returned to the United States, there's no case in controversy. She said, well, there is a controversy. I need to decide whether the status quo ante has been restored, meaning, is the status quo ante that he is back in Maryland before he was unlawfully arrested without a warrant. She was perfectly clear that she has no power to order the government to initiate or not initiate removal proceedings for someone who has a final order of removal, as Mr. Abrego does. But she has, she said, the right and obligation, the power and obligation to make sure that whatever is done lawfully. She's holding this hearing on Thursday to determine, does the government have what is their plan? Is that plan lawful? Does that plan or lack of a plan require intervention? She's taking her time, she's building a very complete record.
Okay, so tell us now about what Abrego's lawyers were angling for or arguing, or was the 3 hours, I'm guessing, mainly colloquy between her and the lawyers for the government? But
It was.
nevertheless, they would have had their chance. Yeah. What are they trying to have happen? I know they say all these terrible things have happened, and for sure they
Right.
have. But what are they looking to trigger as a remedy as a result?
Right. So before the recess, the 2 motions that were being discussed were the motions to dismiss, which the judge denied. After the recess, and actually right before the recess as well, there was argument over whether she has the power to order the status quo ante to be restored. Can he be sent back to Maryland? And the judge put it into perspective when that colloquy was happening with the plaintiff's counsel, with Mr. Abrego's counsel. She said, it's not like the bail is allowing him to be freewheeling here in Maryland. He'll be wearing ankle monitoring. He will be
Yeah.
under home detention. And so she grappled with the plaintiff's request that the status quo be restored. She asked the plaintiff's counsel at one point, how did they learn that Mr. Abrego was being sent back to the United States. And Mr. Abrego's attorney, Simon Sandoval Moshenberg, responded, "Your Honor, we learned it from watching ABC News." And that's how they found out. And so they are asking for notice. Mr. Rossman, another attorney for Mr. Abrego, made a comment that I'll just say it, that we need the court's intervention to protect from the government's bad intentions was afraid that phrase that he used. I think on Thursday, she's going to be grappling with her power. I think both Mr. Abrego's attorneys and the judge recognize that federal judges have limited power to decide what immigration authorities do. And I think Mr. Rossman said point blank, if he is sent to immigration court after being sent to Maryland, we understand that's not within our power for you to dictate whether it's before your honor or before immigration court. But he said that what they were trying to avoid is a repeat of what happened in March, where their client is being spirited onto a plane to a destination that none of them know in advance. And that the judge seemed at least receptive to the idea that she had some power to restore things to the way that they were before everything happened in March, and from that point, let the chips fall as they may.
Yeah, and let me try to flesh this out a little for everyone who's listening, because this case went up to the Supreme Court and it held. We often are focused on this language. You must effectuate his return and how much has to be done. And this was a lot of wrestling and back and forth until the Secretary of State, were given to believe through heroic intervention with Bukele, got him back. But another part of the Supreme Court order said you need to put him in a position that he would have been in had you not violated his legal rights in the first place. Now, Zinnis is the judge who, after he was spirited away, received his habeas corpus motion and held properly and consistent with everyone else. No, 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 no. He has a right to notice and hearing. You haven't given it to him. Now he's back, though, and it's not. So what she's wrestling with is, do I have any more work to do here at all? Because we've stressed this again and again. The U.S. ultimately may be in the driver's seat because they were lawless. They didn't give notice, opportunity to be heard under the Constitution. But once they do that, what's to stop them? So here, Abrego Garcia is trying mightily to construct from just the terrible way he's been treated all the way from when he was first spirited out to El Salvador, some kind of remedy that says, keep him here. You can't just take him to a third party. But Adam and I have talked about this. The law seems to be pretty permissive for the executive to do as it will. So we're in this 2-week or so period. And Zinnis may find I have jurisdiction, and she may find you better be sure. She may say my job is done. There's nothing I can do. Remember, there's still what's happening in Tennessee. Or she may say, no, I still have it, but I'm not sure what she could do other than say, you be sure that you give him notice, opportunity to be heard, and the like. And at that point, the sort of what he really wants, which is to force them to keep him here and try him here. I don't know what Zinnis, who is an angry judge, as Adam says, but a law-abiding one, is going to be able to do. And the administration, is saying kind of smugly, we're going to, whenever the time comes, bye-bye, Abrego, we're taking you to some third country. I'll just remind people that the 8 people who got taken to South Sudan made a final motion. You take us to South Sudan, the youngest country in the world. It's like a state of nature. That is cruel and unusual punishment. You can't do that under the Constitution. The courts rejected that. So right now, the landscape as it exists seems to be that the U.S. can, if not sending someone to their home country, can do any hellhole that will agree to take them. And they have certainly at every juncture tried to treat Abrego as badly and nastily as they can for the great sin of having been sent there by mistake.
Right. And there's reason why the judge is acting with great urgency here, why she scheduled the hearing just a couple of days from now, because on the 16th, there's going to be that hearing in a federal court in Nashville when he may be released. They're going to have to decide those issues by then. And that's why, if he is ordered release on that day, his attorneys want an order saying he can be sent back to the District of Maryland where his wife and children live. The judge might not be able to say you can't deport him. That's beyond her power. But she can, they argue, order that she can order them to follow the law, that she must, as the Supreme Court ordered, restore things to the way they were, and then we start again. So his attorneys are advocating very strongly for him after the hearing. I should mention his wife attended the hearing. She's a plaintiff in
Yeah.
this lawsuit. She was sitting with the attorneys. And after the hearing, one of his attorneys, Simon Sandoval Moshenberg, had said outside of court that essentially they don't want a repeat of what happened in March, where their client is marched onto a plane to a destination unknown. All of this is to prevent that from happening a second time, and we'll find out the final chapter of which on potentially at least July 16th.
Got it. I mean, it could be a short-lived reunion where they send him back and then they come after him. What she said at the time is, you can go against him, but you must give him notice, opportunity to be heard, and presumably, if they do that, their weapons are much fewer for actually resisting. But that's going to be, we right now he is incarcerated in Tennessee because he asked the judge to keep him there because he thinks the administration's just going to grab him by the scruff of the neck and throw him on a plane and send him off to a third party. All right. What about, Adam? Is there, they've ordered, we've seen this before when judges like Boasberg have said, what's the story? Bring somebody here to talk to me who knows something. And the administration has bobbed and weaved and brought someone who doesn't know anything and said the same. Do we anticipate, or was there any indication given that the U.S. will resist this hearing and testimony on Thursday and will now instead move to the Fourth Circuit to try to say this is improper of her? She has no basis for getting inquiring of us, more than inquiring, really demanding of us the answers to what do we intend to do with Abrego.
I wouldn't be surprised by any maneuver by the government, but I will say the way the hearing ended was that one of the attorneys for the government, Mr. Molina, seemed to be preparing for that testimony. He said, "Your Honor, just to let you know, that witness might not be able to answer all of your questions. There might not be information about the third country. The judge may ask that witness, or attorneys for Mr. Abrego may ask that witness, what's the name of the country?" And they say, "Well, Your Honor, we haven't decided yet." So that could be where this
It
is
begins
going.
with a B. Yeah. I mean, really, the exercise in these high-profile cases, the different ways they've been squirrely and maneuvered to keep the public, not to mention the clients, knowing. All right, well, so that seems to be next. It's Thursday. As our viewers well know, we're fortunate to be with Adam because he crisscrosses the country. And Thursday, he has plans to be somewhere other than Greenbelt, Maryland, but we'll be following and see what happens. And for my money, I wouldn't bet on that, on any kind of responsive testimony to be given, or even that hearing on Thursday. We'll see what the U.S. does first. But the basic notion that all of this matters and can play out over the next week or so, but I'm not sure what happens to this poor bastard who suffered the travails of Job and worse, when the U.S. has complied with its constitutional obligations, to keep them from deporting him and deporting him to a third country is going to be, I think, a heavy lift. And now, because of the high profile, it's not something that can be sort of smoothed over by one district court. Obviously, the entire country, including the U.S. Supreme Court, is focused on it. Adam, I'll give you the last word here, and then we'll talk maybe about another case come Thursday. But I'm sure we're not done with Mr. Abrego.
Absolutely, Harry, and thank you. So, just to clarify that itinerary, since you mentioned it, on
Yeah.
Thursday I will be in Concord, New Hampshire, because there's a very important legal battle playing out there. And that is the first birthright citizenship ban challenge
Yeah.
filed in the form of a class action. So, we will see whether a judge can, because it is filed in a class action, still use universal relief after the Supreme Court said you must proceed in this way. The heart of that matter is essentially, can the President of the United States rewrite a constitutional amendment and just outrun the federal judiciary because it has been weakened by the Supreme Court? How weakened has it been? What powers do federal judges have? That's why I'm going up to New Hampshire on Thursday. I will, of course, be following from afar everything that happens here in Maryland. And next week, because I saw someone asking, yes, I will be in Tennessee to find out the final chapter of this. If you and to plug both of our our stuff, so we can find. Please subscribe to both Talking Fed Substack, Harry's Substack, and my Substack, All Rise News, because we're both going to keep following it. I am going to be on the ground for these cases. I'm going to file a story shortly after this. And thank you, Harry, for giving me the opportunity to talk about it.
Oh, thanks very much for talking to our listeners. For you, we've gotten, as we always have from you, Adam, the sort of first blush of the news just after it happens. I just want to say quickly on what's going on in Concord. You know, after what the Supreme Court did, what the stakes are is whether Trump can have his way and actually deprive people born in this country, notwithstanding the clear language of the 14th Amendment, of citizenship, maybe deport them, and can just go on and on until the Supreme Court decides that case. We could be talking about a couple years. He could be completely wrong. He is completely wrong on the merits, but will there be people who have been deported and are dispersed all over the globe by the time it gets to that? And why, oh why, oh why did the Supreme Court let it get to this place where something like that can happen? That's what we're playing out. Super important case, both on the on the remedy, but also on the merits of birthright citizenship. Talk to you soon, I'm sure, Adam, on that. And yeah, we're going to see what transpires come Thursday still in Judge Zinnis's court with Abrego. Until then, talk to you later.
Bye bye.